Right, guys, there we go. Welcome into episode 2 of my law investigation stream. Hope everyone's doing well. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. Um, Again, kind of feels like the first time I'm doing this, even though it's not, but just a lot of hands on stuff to look after here. I'm going to say hello to people in the chat first before we get going. So I can see JWS, welcome. Dave Unknown, welcome in, buddy. I know Matt's there on the Shenmue Dojo account. Cheers, Matt, for this, helping out and stuff. Neocross, Terry, hello. Richard Cartledge, nice to see you, buddy. Don't know, did I say Terry? Terry, hello. if I didn't or not. Shenmue Unofficial, nice to see you, matey. The original law investigator, right there. Matthew Sisk, sorry, almost said sick. Titch is in, thank you for joining. Wing Ran, a guy called No Thanks, welcome in, buddy. Samian, JP Asher, Matt's in as well on his other account. Murray Six, welcome in. Liam B. I caught everyone there. Joy. Yeah, there we go. Welcome in, everyone. Hopefully, you've had a nice, I don't know, couple of weeks since we last streamed. When was that? The 4th. Days flying by, so yeah. And the last, I don't know if you've caught up with episode 1 of the law investigation stream. It's not a prerequisite. It's probably helpful if you did, but I have got some notes actually. Let me just move my drink out of the way so I can see what's going on. I'm going to pop on the screen. So this is a bit of a recap so far. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, that did work, but let me just close that image. We'll get to that in a second. So yeah, disclaimer, full disclaimer. I don't happen to, suggest that I'm very good with Chinese mythology. This is stuff that I'm dipping my toes in, along with maybe some people in the chat right now. Not really looked into this stuff. Obviously, I know what I know from Shenmue, and that's about as far as it goes. Apart from obviously the last time we did this, where we covered quite a lot of ground. We're going to continue that. Hopefully, cover a little bit more ground today. Hopefully, get to the end of Switch's amazing post that we used to episode 1 to get things going. Welcome in, Anadil. Nice to see you. Exactly. Got a bit of a plan going here. Had to not really design how I'm going to do each episode, but I do kind of need to think a little bit before we go in, just in case I'm sat here and I'm like, well, what are we actually going to do today? So I have made a little bit of a plan. So let's go over what we know so far. And I've got a little thing actually because Terry sent me some extra info on the North Star. So obviously, last week we covered a lot about the mirrors and the celestial connections. I'm just reading that there just for a little bit of a reminder there. But we covered the North Star, things like the Big Dipper, the Cassiopeia. So the North Star is the Sky Lord. It's the Lord of the Sky. It's said to be the god that deals with death, the harbinger of death. And it flickers. When it flickers, something bad happens. That's what Shenmue says. Actually, Rio is the guy that says it's the harbinger of death. Which is quite a weird thing for Rio to come out with, actually. The Big Dipper is the constellation that's the 7 stars in the shape of a dragon. And it's a guardian for the Sky Lord. It's one of the Xing Shui. It is 28 traditional constellation groups defined in Chinese astronomy and astrology from Shenhua's father's book, that was. And Cassiopeia is the phoenix, which is the legendary bird of fortune, another guardian for the sky. So quickly, Terry, you sent me this, mate. This was because we kind of went a little bit off topic. Even though it was on topic, it was still slightly off topic. We were wondering why, or I was wondering, why the North Star can stay stationary, right? Considering that the Earth's constantly moving, why does the North Star not move? And basically, it's because if you think of how a globe is, sort of, when you buy a globe and it's got an axis or whatever it's called, and it's just spinning on its axis like that, the North Star's kind of just above it. So the Earth's going this way, and so that star doesn't really move. It might move a tiny bit, and that's pretty much what this says. So, North Star, also known as Polaris, appears to stay fixed in our northern sky. It marks the location of the sky's north pole, or the north celestial pole, the point around which the whole northern sky full of stars turns. That's why you can always use Polaris to find the direction north, which is, I think I did say that last week actually, is hopefully it's dark. If you're lost and it's dark, you can probably find your way north if you need to go. If you know you need to go north, I suppose you can go any direction from that point onwards, because if you find the north and you need to go south, not that anyone ever uses stuff like that these days, like compasses and stuff, you just sort of pull out your Google Maps, don't you? So the North Star doesn't appear to move, but it does move. If you took its picture, you'll find that it makes its own little circle, so like a tiny little circle, around the exact point of the North Celestial Pole every day. That's because the North Star is offset by a little, about 0.65 degrees from the celestial north. So Polaris makes a circle that's 1.3 degrees in diameter each day. When it's closer to the celestial pole in about 100 years, perhaps don't need to know all this sort of stuff. But yeah, basically that's why. So I'm glad we we got to the end of that little conclusion. Is everything going okay, guys? You can't view the stream in high definition. Should be able to. Okay, you had to manually select it now. Brilliant. Thanks for that, guys. Right, let's crack on then. So, okay, let's go over the other notes. So, other than that, we learned about the Han Dynasty a little bit. So, that's the era in which the map of the stars was made. So, I think that was like, it may even have been the Russia China shop lady that said this wooden plaque with all the stars and that sort of stuff, that nice image, that's from the Han Dynasty. And that's when all the stars were formed between those years. You can see that, right, guys? Yeah. In China, there are many treasures that contain both good and bad fortune, and that's called the secret of yin and yang. Could be a topic that we could look at in the future. The mirror's creation was ordered by the emperor at the time from a sculptor. Nguyen requested to engrave a guardian on this mirror. And this is a little interesting point we're going to get to a little bit later today about the emperor, which I can't wait to delve into, because you'll see why. But this dude ordering something is perhaps not really what he did. I don't know. We'll see when we get to it. Master Chen talks about Chiyo. He's saying when the dragon and phoenix meet, the gates of heaven and earth will open. Chiyo will resurrect itself on earth. Chiyo is a legendary Chinese monster that will devour this world of ours, and Landy will try to make use of both mirrors. So again, that could be another area we could actually look into the Chiyo monster at some point. Yuan Dezu, on the other hand, he says when the Phoenix Mirror is paired with the Dragon Mirror, the two form a key to the treasures hidden away in order to revive the Qing Dynasty. And that's another topic I do want to do in the future, the Qing Dynasty. So the Phoenix Mirror shows the Big Dipper light pattern, and that was, I think we ended last stream with that actually, where he blows the smoke and you can see the lights of the Big Dipper. And he says that the lights indicate the location of the treasure, but a single mirror is not enough. It needs the dragon. Bailu Village, he says, is where the descendants of the ones who made the mirror live there, basically the Yuan family. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. Is Master Chen right that the mirrors, when paired, are going to, unleash this massive Chiyo monster, or are they more likely to just be a key to open some, I don't know, some door or a chest or something that reveals some treasure? Or is it a metaphor, which is something I suggested last week or whenever we last streamed? And the last little bit about the Qing Dynasty, that was from 1636 to 1912, it was the last Orthodox dynasty in Chinese history, and there hasn't been a dynasty since then, as far as I'm aware. I don't know the reason behind that. Just something must have happened where, I don't know, it was no longer, maybe just modern age of whatever, I don't know. But the last emperor was the Xuantong emperor called Pu Yi. And that's the dude that we're going to investigate a little bit today, once we get down all this stuff. So this is all the stuff we did last week. And I will catch up in the chat in a moment. I'm going to launch the game, actually, because what we're going to start with, because we ended just here, right? So that was the bit I've just mentioned about the Xuantong Emperor Puyu. Puyi, rather. So, we've all caught up. Hopefully, that wasn't too much of a mindfuck. All quite self-explanatory, I think, from if you played the games. Get that loaded. Hopefully, the camera won't freeze and everything should be A-OK. Let me know if the game audio is a little bit too loud here, guys. Yeah, welcome in, AA. Nice to have you in. And Discon Abisco 2234. It is a SkillJim household. Oh, Shenmue unofficial. That's a real image of the Han Dynasty. It's actually the big. It's actually the Big Dipper is considered the carriage for the Skylord. What do you mean by carriage? So we're going to watch the prophecy here, guys. Just Shenmue 1's prophecy. So that is the basis for the next bit of Switch's post. Yeah, epic menu screen. That and Shenmue 2's.
He shall appear from a far eastern land across the sea. A young man who has yet to know his potential. This potential is a power that could either destroy him or realize his will. His courage shall determine his fate. The path he must traverse, fraught with adversity, I await whilst praying. For this destiny predetermined since ancient times. A pitch-black night unfolds with the morning star as its only light. And thus the saga begins.
Right. And the morning star, right, is the North Star, I think. What's that? Okay, so a reference to the dragon and phoenix together also occurs outside of gameplay in the prologue of each of the games in the series, in which Shenhua is heard reciting the prophecy. This wording is from the Shenmue 2 version. A dragon shall emerge from the earth, and dark clouds shall obscure the heavens. A phoenix shall descend from above, its wings will create a purple wind. In the midst of the pitch-black night, a morning star shall glisten alone. These words paint imagery of a conflict or dramatic event involving a dragon and phoenix in some form. And I guess that kind of alludes to what we saw in the Shenmue Online trailer stuff with the massive dragon in the sky and the massive phoenix. Potentially that could be a future event in the series, I'm not sure. Did you mention about the carriage thing that I said? Let me see. Yo, Steen Code. Shenmue 4 Live. There's about 4 versions of the prophecy, yeah. I don't know why. Just translating, I guess. Right, so if you look at the image, you can see the Skylord inside the Big Dipper. He is sitting inside a carriage. Which image was this? Was this OP or was it? This thing. What is going on actually in this image when you think about it? Let me zoom in a little bit on that. So you've got like, I don't know, is that like a pixie or a fairy? And then you've got these, I guess this is the god. Is this a god or is this an emperor? Is that Phoenix or is that a dragon? That could be a dragon. Looks like a fish or a bird. Clouds, I'm guessing. And then these are like the servants or people, townspeople praying. A little peacock there, perhaps, and a horse. Never really actually looked at that in detail like that before. Is this what you mean? If you look at the image, you can see the Sky Lord inside the Big Dipper. Is that him? Is that the Sky Lord? Prophecy dictates Landy will be pissed off when his house catches on fire. Interesting. That might be one. We'll take it. I'll take a little screenshot of that. That could be something we could potentially find some recognisable stuff to go with that. Big Dipper picture. Yeah, okay, that's the Sky Lord. Interesting. Is this something like a bird as well? Like sort of not really on his shoulder, is it? But it's looks like it's coming off him. Very interesting image. I don't know if the game developers designed that image or that's like an actual historic sort of picture. I will zoom in actually a little bit. That's probably better like that. Right, let's crack on. Cheers for that though, Shenmue Unofficial. That was interesting. Yeah, I never looked that closely at that before either. So yeah, it's always been mentioned about the Phoenix and Dragon and the prophecies and all that sort of stuff. So bad endings next. So we're going to watch these as well. I've got them on YouTube. So it's going to be good. Good way to start the show, I think. Some video footage of Shenmue. So the bad ending of Shenmue 2 and 3 also ties into the words of the prophecy. If the player takes too long to progress through the game, although practically speaking, a deliberate effort is needed to bring this about, yeah, of course, special cutscene plays. In the case of Shenmue 2's bad ending, Ryo was shown holding the Phoenix mirror as it glows and then it cracks. We're going to watch the first one first, actually. We're going to go through all three because I think they're pretty interesting anyway, because each of the bad endings... Get that on to 5 minutes there. Each of the bad endings, I don't know if you realise this, guys, but you have the bad ending cutscene once you reach the date, but there's also, like, I think it is a month before each of them, there's a little bit of a warning, or a couple of weeks at least. So we're going to watch the first bad ending first, and each of the warnings are actually probably the most interesting. This is actually from my Cherry Blossom video, but it's pretty good footage, so yeah, enjoy. And listen to the wording.
With the date of the bad ending approaching, Ryo is visited by Shenhua in his dreams, who brings a warning which will literally make sense in the upcoming days.
When the cherry blossoms fall, the dragon shall descend on you. Hurry.
A dream?
What's interesting about that one is she says, when the cherry blossoms fall, the dragon shall descend on you. Obviously, we know the dragon to be like Landy, if you're thinking of it in those sort of terms. But 10, 15. But the cherry blossoms falling line is interesting when you get to Shenmue 3's bad ending, because it's unknown whether these bad endings are sort of in combination of each other or individual for each game. So obviously this is like you're coming up to April here, aren't you? I think is it April the 15th bad ending? Which is around the time that the cherry blossoms are actually losing the petals, which is why...
April the 15th. The inevitable bad ending occurs. The tree is now completely void of bloom, and its new green leaves are now present, as the next growth cycle of a cherry tree starts to begin.
I'll never tell you where Ryo-san is! Ah! Fukusan! Landy!
Such a cool bad ending if you've not seen this before.
Ryo-san, don't do it!
I heard there's another mirror.
What?
Give it to me, now.
Not a chance.
If that's the way you want it, I'll just take it from you.
I will avenge my father's death.
There we go. Rip Ryo. Hopefully the extra narration didn't put you off. You can tell that I had a much worse mic back then when I did that video. But yeah, so basically, I don't know if the date's actually important there. So that's April the 15th. And Landy's returned, obviously, to the Hazuki residence there because he's just found out, I'm assuming, that Ryo had the other mirror, or Iwao had the other mirror. So, game time-wise, quite a few months before he actually realises that, and I don't know where he learns that information from. And again, I don't know if that was just something that was just made without any particular thought. The thought, obviously, around the cherry blossoms falling, which makes sense. But we're going to watch the other two bad endings, and again, like I say, I don't know if they're actually linked timeline-wise. I'm not sure if it tells you the date in this one. Does anyone know the date offhand of the Shenmue 2's bad ending? I'd imagine it was further on than April, but I'm not sure.
早く来て。
誰だ？
竜が道を閉ざしてしまう。
どういうことだ？
早く。もう時間が。あと一月で竜が道を。
Okay. See, in the first bad ending, it was the dragon will descend on you. In the second one, it's the dragon will block the path.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting. This is where the mirror cracks, like it physically cracks here.
Kagami ga.
I'm not sure why. Ooh, see the dark clouds covering the sky there?
竜が黒雲を呼び、明星を覆う。
Hides the morning star, so it's
道は
hiding the
閉ざ
North
され、
Star.
開口
Path
の
is
願い、
closed.
ついえ
The
る。
hope of meeting is lost.
貴様の力、蚩尤のためにいただく。
That one's pretty awesome as well. I don't know what's going on with the mirror cracking. Does that mean that Landy's sucked the power out of it somehow? And he's going to steal Shenhua's power. Doesn't really suggest like how he does that. Does he suck that out of Shenhua as well, or is it now he's holding the mirror? But yeah, something is very ominous about that mirror cracking. See, it's cracked in his hand there. So you'd assume, I don't know, although he did pick it up and carry it, I was going to say like you'd assume it's like useless now. Maybe it's significant that it's like the phoenix is like cracked. Maybe the dragon mirror has all the power or something. That was pretty poignant with you can see the stars and the purple sky, and obviously the clouds engulf the stars there. So Matt said that was July the 31st. So the first one's August the 15th. April, May, June, July. So this is like an extra 3 months. And I'm not sure, I don't know if anyone's ever tested, but say if you get the date to maybe, what's this, July the 31st. So get it to say July the 30th, and then go to Guilin, so that you've got enough time to meet Shenhua, because she says here, the path is closed and the hope of meeting is lost. Depending what she means by the hope of meeting, does she mean meeting Rio or something else? If it means like meeting Rio, obviously if you got to the 30th of July, you could potentially meet her, and then you'd go to sleep, and then potentially the cutscene would trigger. I'm sure it'd be the same cutscene, but I think Blue Moon test it, and you end up locked into Guilin, so I don't think it happens. Oh, okay, so you don't get the bad ending, it just lets you continue the game at that point, does it? That's pretty interesting, if so. Just for fun, we're going to watch Shenmue 3's bad ending. And again, just mentioning that the first bad ending mentioned about the cherry blossoms falling. I don't know if there's any significance following on to that into this one.
The dragon shall block the path.
Who's going on about blocking the path?
What are you talking about?
Hurry, there is no time. You have just one more month.
It's one of those where, like, if she just talked for another 5 seconds, what path? Just answer the question.
The dragon shall call forth dark clouds to cover the morning star. The path shall be sealed, and all hope will be lost.
And this is where we get the cherry blossoms here.
I have the mirror. You have outlived your usefulness.
Don't think the mirror's cracked then, right? I'll double check that. Or is he just, maybe he's just got his hands behind his back actually. There's no mirror there, is there? Oh, there is a mirror. Not very easy to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Anyone got any theories about what the path is? What are they on about? The path is sealed. If I can remember correctly, the morning star is actually planet Venus. Really? Oh, Terry says Venus is the evening star. So the morning star isn't the North Star then? It's not just another way of saying that, no? Matt, do you know when the bad ending is in Shenmue 3? What date is that? The dragon is Satan. 31st of July again. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Can't think why. What's significant about that date? And what month are we actually starting Shenmue 3 at? It's a bit later than Shenmue 2 anyway, isn't it? March, yeah. So you don't suppose the rest of the series takes place in April, May, June, July, like 4 months, right? Or it can't do really, can it? Because you're going to have less time within the game per game going forward. Yeah, it can't be. I don't think. I think they must do something that pushes it maybe. Yeah, I remember that 2-year sort of thing, and that would line up to like Rio's training and stuff. He's got to get better at training, hasn't he, to potentially beat Landy or whatever. So a 2-year sort of thing could make sense, learning Bajikwan moves and stuff. Could the path be literally the path through to the Cliff Temple? Possibly. Like, maybe by July the 31st, Landy's or Meowson or whatever's prophecy-wise got both mirrors and open up the Cliff Temple stuff and unleash Chio and all that sort of stuff, but we're on the way to the Cliff Temple. So if we get there first and, stop them from doing that, maybe the date pushes forward again then. Whatever. Or, I just had a thought. What's that? It's kind of like, not Final Destination. No, I don't think it's that. Where, like, you stop something from happening, so the date move. I suppose it could be Final Destination. I think there's another film that does that sort of thing, though. If you get there before... Maybe I was thinking about Final Destination, actually thinking about it. If you stop something from happening, it happens again later, or you're still on this track to, I don't know, something actually happening still. Because I'm assuming they would have a bad ending per game, regardless of it ending in July the 31st or whatever. Shenmue unofficial thinks Shenmue 3's got the best bad ending. It's pretty badass. I do like the way that the cherry blossoms are falling there. Very, very cool. It's not just a pre-rendered background, like proper petals they've designed there, I feel like, which are going all around Landy, which is pretty cool. With only the dragon being activated, there will be destruction. Only with Phoenix, the strength of the dragon will be balanced out. Very possibly. Yeah, good point, Terry. It's a bit like the yin and yang stuff in it. Again, so we've just seen that. So this was on about the Shenmue 2 ending, bad ending. Yeah, Rio's cry can be heard as the scene fades to black. So that was with the glowing mirror that cracks. It's weird, the little orb on it glows, doesn't it, just before it cracks. Okay, so the dragon calls the dark clouds and hides the morning star. Path is closed and the hope of meeting is lost. As lightning flashes and a thunderclap is heard, she turns to see Landy, who's holding the cracked mirror behind him. I shall take your power for the Chi-Yo. Notice he doesn't say Chi-Yo men there, he says Chi-Yo. So is that a translation thing? I don't know, or is it... Does he mention about the translation here? Or is he literally meaning about the monster? Landy's sentence suggests that his motivation behind obtaining the mirrors is linked to the Chi-Yo, Chinese monster that will be referenced again later in this post. Okay. The bad ending for Shenmue 3 is similar, but in this case, it is Aldier who utters similar words to Ryo, stating that the path shall be sealed and all hope will be lost. Landy is then shown striking down Ryo as he says, I have the mirror, you have outlived your usefulness, as Shenfar watches helplessly nearby. I'd like to know where he's falling. When it goes pitch black and Rio's just falling. Because that kind of feels like a nightmare dream scenario rather than real life. So, the origin of the mirrors. Towards the end of Shenmue 2, when Ryo and Shenfar are walking along the Cloudbird Trail to the Stone Pit, Shenfar talks about a village legend that involves mirrors made from Phantom Riverstone. And actually, we're going to play this a little bit. I tried to make these lore streams a bit like not just talking word heavy. So we're going to do a bit of video watching and a bit of actually playing the games, because this doesn't take too long to get to. And actually, I've got something else that I want to talk about on the way. So I probably should mention at the start of the show, but this basically is a blog post from Switch over at Phantom Riverstone. He's actually released the first part, and it's good actually how it's worked out like that. Because I thought he was releasing the whole post, so everyone could have read this by now, but he kind of decided to split it in line with these actual lore investigation streams, which is cool. So the second part is going to be live sometime after this stream finishes, basically. So it's pretty cool. We've staggered his releases of this post. So we're going to go back to Shenfar's house. If you remember last time, I used the save to get about the mirrors, and I think we looked at that poster actually, the mountains, which I am just going to have a quick look at, because this is interesting, guys. I don't know if you realise this. I only just found this out the other day when I was testing. Ooh. When you watch this cutscene, and I will let this cutscene play again because I want to talk about these mountains a little bit.
Somewhere in Guilin.
Really?
I heard these mountains are scary.
Scary?
Those who set foot in these mountains have never returned. It's an old tale.
Why?
I don't know. But no one goes near these mountains today.
Chiyo is the name of the society. Man in Chinese means society, if you know what I mean. Is that the case in this situation, though, Terry, do you reckon? Because Chiyo is like the name of the monster, right? Hey, Sonosuke, welcome. Donu, welcome in. We've got all these character names in tonight. I think we've got Joy, Donu, and Wing Ren, which is fun. So what I was going to say is, I didn't realise this, guys, but there's more than one dialogue, and this is another just an insane Shenmue-esque thing. When you look at this scroll, Ryo's going to say something in a moment.
The mountains from where no one returns.
Okay, the mountains from where no one returns, right? If you look at it again, he doesn't say anything. I tried it the next day, look at it, he doesn't say anything. So he only says one thing once. And the first time I tried this, he said, is it this one? Oops, what am I doing here? Let me open this image. Ooh, a little bit laggy. Not even the villagers would go near these mountains. Is that what you just said? No, he said the mountains where no one returns, right? So there's separate pieces of dialogue that you can only hear on subsequent playthroughs. There's no way of hearing both lines of dialogue. Yeah, the mountains from where no one returns. So last time I did it, I got not even the villagers would go near these mountains. The mountains from where no one's... Yeah, so that was the first time. That's the one we just done, which is interesting. And he also did it for the Big Dipper book. So there's a book, the Swing Shui thing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Where he said, I looked at it and he said, a book on constellations, I think, is the dialogue he said. And then I did it again, like reloaded the save and looked at it again. And he said, the light that shone from the Phoenix mirror was in the shape of the Big Dipper. So there's another little interesting one. He's got two sets of dialogues for like each of Shenhua's father's items, which I didn't realise, but you can only ever hear one.
Shenhua.
What's wrong, Ryo?
I smell something good.
I'm preparing a big feast, so can you wait a while?
So we're going to skip ahead on this stuff. Oh, I was going to mention something about the mountains as well on tap, which I will say. We're going to skip this cutscene stuff because I'm sure you guys have already seen this. It's not what we're actually going for. I actually saw a rabbit in here as well. I'll show you this. Did I take a picture of that? Oh, I did. For some reason, there was a random rabbit in Shenhua's house. I don't know if it was a glitch or something. Actually, let's have a look at these mountains while I'm thinking about it before I forget. So this, right? What the fuck was I thinking of? Oh yes, that was it. So I may have to minimize some stuff here a second. Hang on. Where is that one? I'll bring that up. So if we get the chapter 7 tile up, because you know how I should have thought about this one a bit more, but you know how at the end of Shenmue 3 Ryo says that was it. Okay, we are going to get to it at some point. Right, that's why I took a photo. I'm just trying to remember what I was doing here, so we'll leave that for now. I'll come back to that in a bit. That's why I took a picture of it, okay. we get to this stuff in a bit. Jumping ahead of myself. So the next thing we're going to do is... This was interesting with the plans.
This is...
So obviously, these are the actual mirror plans, I'm assuming from 1912.
What's wrong?
Because they're exactly the same, they're like actual size to the mirrors, right? Sort of.
It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
What is this drawing?
My father told me this has been in our family since long, long ago.
And there you go,
But
since
he
long,
wouldn't
long
tell
ago.
me anything else about it. Yo, what is this mirror?
I heard that it was given to my father.
To your father? This Phantom Riverstone can only be found in Bailu village.
Phantom Riverstone?
How did this mirror get to Japan?
I don't know.
My father might know something.
Where is your father now?
He's at the stone pit, gathering Phantom Riverstone.
Where's the stone pit?
Over on the other side of the mountain. He said he was going to finish something. It's been days since he left for the stone pit.
Can you take me there?
I'm going to bring him food tomorrow morning. Come with me.
All right.
Very cool. Welcome in, Shauna. No problem. Welcome in, Shenson. So we're going to skip some of the stuff because that isn't particularly what I wanted to show you, but I just thought it was interesting actually. So you've got the plans there, I'm assuming for inside the stone pit. Are those... Let's get a little bit close to that. Those big two circle things meant to be the... relief things, the big... Do you reckon that's what they're meant to be, those two circles in the middle? Because just how it looks on the map there is a bit... I know, sorry about the thumbstick tilting here, but it looks like there's either a room behind there or those aren't the mirrors, if you know what I mean. But I think that's inside the stone pit, those plans. Actually, Switch, I think, managed to get... Don't know why I'm pointing, but that image behind there, this one, the tree, is a bit like a Roman sort of a fountain. I don't know if anyone can ever decipher what these things say, but they're all pretty interesting. And I noticed what you're saying there, Terry, in your quiz that time, about Shenmue having those things upside down. Which they did actually keep that in Shenmue 3, didn't they? Those lucky image things.
Shenmue.
Yo, good morning.
So the plans weren't actually on the table still there, so I don't know. I was going to say...
Right now. Can you wait a while?
I was going to say that those are actually the plans that the Mr. Yuan's grandfather would have used them to make the actual mirrors. So I suppose you could be mistaken for when you see that sheet of paper thinking like, oh, those are the big mirrors inside the stone pit, but no, that's like the actual bloody 100-year-old plan.
Follow me.
All right.
So this is the dialogue we want to get to.
What's the stone pit like?
It's inside a cave.
A cave?
When you go inside the cave, there's a
Oh, cheers,
hall.
Andy.
I always bring lunch
No problem with
there.
lurking, mate.
There's a larger hall further inside the cave.
Further inside?
Yes, but my father doesn't let me go there. I don't really know what that place is like. But I heard it's a stone pit for Phantom Riverstone.
Phantom Riverstone.
Yes, the same stone as your mirror. Yo, can I ask you something?
What is it?
It's about that phoenix mirror.
Yeah.
On the diagram in my father's room, there was a design of a dragon as well.
Yeah. My father had another mirror with a dragon on it.
What happened to the mirror of the dragon?
It was stolen by the man who killed my father, Lan Di.
Killed?
Oh, that's right.
Your father was killed because of the mirror.
Huh? Because of the mirror?
Love the way this looks, by the way.
Village legend.
Here we go. Village legend says the ancient emperor had mirrors made from Phantom Riverstone.
But the rulers
fought for the mirror, trying to get its hidden power.
And some even lost their lives because of it.
I didn't know there was such a legend.
I'm getting scared.
Shenfa,
I hope nothing evil happens.
whatever the case, we should go ask your father. Let's hurry to the stone pit.
Yes.
There we go. Cool. So, basically this is what she just said there. And it's an interesting point that she mentions, like the village legend saying that the emperor had these mirrors made, and some even lost their lives because of it. Because I was wondering, when you look at the mountains, she says some people never returned. I wonder if that's linked. So those mountains, in theory, could be the Cliff Temple. And I'll tell you why I think that in a moment when we get to this little bit here. But Switch does have a little bit of a translation note here. So Shenhua's phrasing in the English translation, with the use of words like ancient and legend, makes it sound as if this event happened many hundreds or even thousands of years ago. However, her words can be translated as follows, without such heavy emphasis on a grand passage of time. So there's a story told in the village a long time ago. A number of mirrors were made from Phantom Riverstone by decree of the emperor. But the rulers at the time vied with each other for the mirrors to obtain the power hidden within, and they say that some even lost their lives. While this still talks of an event that happened long ago, this allows for a timeline closer to the modern era that one is led to believe is based on the game's original English translation. This is important because subsequent events in Shenmue 3, which we'll look at next, relate to that early 1900s time period rather than truly ancient times. And this is, I think, where the bulk of today's stream is going to be now. We're going to focus on this. So the date is 1987 currently in Shenmue terms. This stuff that's happening here in the 1900s, very early on, up until 1912, I think, is the date, when the actual Qing dynasty ends. Which is interesting. We're going to get that note about, was it I think it is Yuan Dezu, that says when the mirrors are thingy, it revives the Qing dynasty. And that is another topic that I want to actually research, like what that actually means, reviving the Qing dynasty. Let me just catch up on the chat, guys. Okay. Impressive that they kept this line in Shenmue 3. Which line was that, Matt? Just attention to details like this one is one of the reasons why people love Shenmue. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to look at this cutscene in a moment of the envoy. So the connection with the Emperor is expanded upon much later in the game. Jumping ahead to Shenmue 3, Ryo discovers a photo at Manyuan Temple that shows a group of people in Bailu Village carrying banners decorated with the motifs of the dragon and phoenix. He asks the resident monk about it. The Emperor line commissioning the mirrors, yeah. Which, to be honest, that is probably the bulk of the storyline in Shenmue 3 in terms of like the Bailu Village kind of thing. I think that is what they want you to do. They want you to learn about how the mirrors came to be, and sort of go back in time a little bit to that sort of era of the Emperor and that sort of stuff. And this does get really interesting, guys. So thank you for sticking with me as we got through like those other little bits like the prophecy and the bad endings, which I thought were pretty cool, but perhaps not really too lore heavy. But we're going to get into big lore stuff now, which is going to rack our brains a little bit. So Manyuan Temple is 3 hours, and I'll just give a shout out. Ikare Gaming. He's done a big playthrough here. Perfect for this stream, actually. It's got the whole game in 10 hours, which is pretty cool, actually. 3 hours, 5 minutes. And 20 seconds. So we'll go from here. We're going to watch this cutscene.
Oh, this is... What? The Verdant Bridge? It must be pretty old. What the? Who exactly are these people?
So sorry to have kept you waiting. Have you found anything of interest?
This photo here.
Ah, yes, that photo is said to be of an Imperial envoy dispatched to Bailu village by the Emperor himself.
What are these crests on these banners?
They represented the will of the Imperial family. A dragon for the Emperor, and a phoenix for the Empress. It is said that the Emperor of the time revered the dragon and phoenix greatly.
Why was this Imperial envoy visiting Bailu village?
I'm afraid that is all I know.
Would you mind if I borrowed the photo?
Oh, It wouldn't hurt to show a bit of faith in Iwao-san. Please take it.
Thank you. I'll be sure to bring it back to you.
Hold on, take this too. Your father left it as an offering for the temple. I cannot read what it says, but I hope that it brings you some comfort.
Love that too. That's what a wow left for Ryo's mother. Kane, I shall return. There is a little bit more we're going to watch in a moment, but I thought that cutscene's quite interesting because... Let's just skip back a couple of bits. When it's showing that the actual envoy, they represented the will of the Imperial family, dragon for the Emperor, and phoenix for the Empress. I assumed perhaps that this bloke here was the Emperor. Maybe. So you've got like these two sort of... banner holders, banner carriers, guards or whatever. And then this bloke here is interesting because he seems quite important, right? And then you've got these two women who, actually, now I'm looking at them, kind of look dressed similar to Yuan Dazu's little minion girls in... What chapter tile's that? Is that 6? 4? Possibly? It's just something I literally just thought about. It could just be the hairstyle. Bit more dressy, aren't they, actually? But all the way to the ground. Just an interesting little thought I had there. So this bloke, we don't really know who this guy is, do we? And you'll see why it's not the Emperor in a moment. So let's skip ahead. So we've got a little bit that Ryo takes this picture to Shenhua's house. And talk a little bit.
I should show that picture to Shenhua.
Yeah, go straight there, actually. 10 hours, pretty good going, isn't it, for the completing Shenmue 3? It's potentially, I haven't actually watched the whole playthrough, but it's potentially like a New Game Plus sort of a thing. Which cuts out a lot of the grinding.
This is the Verdant Bridge.
Is that a date?
1910, the second year of
1910,
Xuan
the
Tong.
second year of Xuan Tong. Let's make a note of this, actually, because this is going to be some good stuff here. So let's make a section below here of like research stuff. So Xuan Tong is something quite interesting. 1910 is the second year of it. That's the year it was finished. So that was the year that the Verdant Bridge was finished, right? Verdant Bridge was finished.
That's the year it was finished.
It's pretty old then. The resident monk said it was built for an imperial envoy that visited Bai Lu.
How were they crossing that bloody river before that?
These
Just
patterns
swimming.
match what we saw in my father's quarry. This might help us find him.
Is there anyone who might know more about the bridge?
Elder Yep probably would.
Yeah, runners.
Who?
The elderly lady who makes medicine for the village.
Don't worry, man.
She lives near the village square.
Perfect. I'll go see her tomorrow.
Thanks.
And welcome in, Liquid Man. I'd like to say you've not missed too much, runners, even though we have been going for an hour. So that photo is said to be of an imperial envoy dispatched to Bailu village by the emperor himself, which is an interesting one. By the emperor himself. I keep alluding to this. We are going to get to it at some point. Why that's funny. So what are the crests of these banners? They represented the will of the imperial family, a dragon for the emperor and a phoenix for the empress. It said that the emperor at the time revered the dragon phoenix greatly. So the English line, so some translation notes again. So the English line, they represented the will of the imperial family, sounds a little odd, and in fact it does not appear in the original Japanese at all. The Japanese line is, which means the dragon is said to represent the emperor and the phoenix the empress. Perhaps at one point the Japanese line had it, but it was adjusted without the change being reflected back to the translated line. So it's interesting they kind of added this in the English dialogue only. So it wasn't actually in the Japanese side of things, which is quite interesting. All the banter in the chat. I think I've missed that, actually. I try and keep this quite focused so we can have a nice rounded 2-hour stream, and anyone watching this in the future isn't too distracted by the chat, I guess. But it is really cool of you guys to have this sort of interaction thing, because I do ask like random questions and it is pretty useful. The use of the verb revered in the last sentence also represents a difference. The English translation has, it is said that the emperor at the time revered the dragon and the phoenix greatly. The Japanese line says, it is said that the emperor at the time was fond of this dragon and phoenix. So not so much revered, but just fond of. At first this seems a curious way to express the emperor's attitude, but we shall soon see below a reason as to why this is the case, and there's Switch teasing as well a little bit. Ryo then returns to Shenhua's house to show her the photo, pointing out the dragon and phoenix designs on the banner. Shenhua notices that there's a date written on the back of the photo. This is the Verdant Bridge, 1910, the second year of Xuan Tong, and that's the year it was finished. It appears that Shenhua is familiar with the year that the Verdant Bridge was built, perhaps from village lore. When do you reckon the prophecy was kind of created? Do you reckon the prophecy was 1910, or is that going to go back even further than that? Is that like a... Do they actually say, is this just long ago, right? This is a poem from long ago. Add some special guests in the chat. Yeah, basically, Ren has done it. Shenmue 3 goes deep into Bailu village history and Chinese history. And there's actually some good paths and stuff that we can bounce off of with some of the stuff. Just turn my phone upside down, it's dead distracting. So this is the dude here. So this is the last emperor, Pu Yi, which, remember, we did learn is the last emperor from the Qing dynasty, basically the last orthodox dynasty in Chinese history. So importantly, the writing on the photo provides the era name for the emperor mentioned by the monk at Manyuan Temple, Xuantong. This emperor was a real historical figure named Pu Yi. Assuming that the emperor is based accurately on the historical character, 2 points of particular interest sound out regarding the year 1910, when the imperial envoy is said to have visited by the village. One is that Pu Yi was born in 1906 and became the emperor at the age of 2 in 1908. This would make him only around the age of 4 years old at the time that the mirrors were commissioned. Which is crazy, isn't it? So his age is not made clear during the game, but it would explain the monk's curious phrasing above, that he was more fond of the dragon and phoenix rather than revering them. Right? He's only 4 years old. Maybe he's got like a little dragon toy, a little phoenix toy he bounces around and plays with. I don't know. And they're like, "Ooh, he's quite fond of those. So let's put them on mirrors." So I don't know who's making the decisions for him, but clearly a 4-year-old is not going to say, "Look, guys, go build me a bloody bridge. Can you get me 2 mirrors? Because all my treasures, you see all this treasure right behind me, guys, this needs to be locked away somewhere safe, and the only way we're going to do that is with 2 magical mirrors engraved with a phoenix and dragon on. And for some reason, when they combine," maybe he did say this, it sounds like some shit from a kid's brain, innit? When they combine, a Chiyu monster's going to come out, dance around, devour the whole earth. Oh, why would you want that to happen? Pu Yu? Why would you want the whole earth to be devoured? Wouldn't that destroy us all? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Or it unlocks a key to the treasure or whatever, which is probably more realistic thinking. But again, who's making the decisions for this little kid? Because again, a 4-year-old's not going to made by his parents, but if that was the case, wouldn't they be the emperor and empress? We're going to look into this guy at some point, but I assume because they're not around, that's why he's the emperor, right? Surely it's like the king and queen. When a king or queen dies, the next person below goes in charge, kind of a thing. To be fair, it may be the case that these instructions were not from Pu Yi, but from someone like his uncle who can control. Unless the 4-year-old is like Shenmue and has spiritual ancestor powers. Like a rebirth sheep. Maybe the only hair dyed. This sort of king kid is not uncommon in Chinese history. Then passed to their son. Very interesting stuff, though. So he's still a child. Is that a photo of him or a drawing? I suppose there was like black and white photos of stuff in 1910. Just as a side point, I saw a trailer. I was around my mum and dad's, and there was like a trailer for this war thing. That's, I don't know if it's on. It'll be on one of like the either like ITV or something coming soon. And it was like all World War One footage. And it's like these guys jumping out of planes, soldiers on the ground shooting people and all this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, like, who's stood there with a camera? Who's filmed those things happening? Because you've got to think, for World War One, surely a camera wouldn't have been that easy to carry around. And it's like in the midst of battle. Did they have people like recording those events all the way back then? That seems a bit random to me. Just a little side point, just looking at this picture here, I'm thinking, like, who's got a camera in 1910, maybe? Is it one of those? It'll be one of those really old black camera things that's like a massive thing, like kind of like a photography thing. It goes when it takes the photo, I think. The second interesting point is that Pu Yi was the last emperor of China, as the 11th and final monarch of its last dynasty, the Qing dynasty. His reign lasted only a couple of years. The end of the Qing dynasty has significance as it is referred to elsewhere in the story, as we will see later in this post. This connects nicely with information from Yuanda Zhu and Shenmue 2 seen above, who spoke of the mirrors being a key to the treasures for the revival of the Qing dynasty. We will definitely look into this stuff at some point. I want to find out what the revival would actually mean. Is there any significance to that? And what's actually gone on within this dynasty that kind of relates to the series. It'd be quite interesting. Yeah, I used to wonder that. Now they're in full colour HD WW2 World War II in video. First camera was apparently invented in 1816 to 1820. First video camera was 1882. Okay. I know I've seen footage, I think were we looking? I don't know if that was on stream or not, but there was some really old footage I remember seeing of like London and stuff. It's like the very earliest known recording of cars and stuff crossing a bridge. Not even cars, probably like horses and carriages and stuff. So that's pretty interesting, but I just think like in the midst of a battle, who's filming World War? It's just some people just employed to video record it, I guess. Okay. So the purpose of the Verdant Bridge. So next, Rio speaks with the elderly Mr. Su, who tells him that the Verdant Bridge was built by the villagers themselves to welcome the Imperial Envoy. He mentions that he was there amongst the crowd of people as a boy, along with Mr. Sun. And that is timestamp 3 hours 16. Yeah, bang on. So let's learn a little bit about the bridge now. That'll do.
Come in. What is it now, eh?
He's an actual real-life guy, though.
I have a question for you.
I think he's still alive, actually.
You and everyone else.
Is he?
None
No,
of
he
you
can't
would
be.
know anything if not for me. Go on.
Can't be. Maybe
Tell
he could
me
be,
about
actually.
the completion of the Verdant Bridge.
Verdant Bridge?
No, he can't be.
Is there anything you can tell me?
He'd be like
Anything at all would help.
4 or something, wouldn't he?
I don't get asked about it every day. But you look like the insistent type, so I'll tell you. I was just a boy, mind you, but I recall that an Imperial envoy was to come to the village. The bridge was built by the villagers as a way to welcome him.
It was?
I mean, did he just say the Emperor? Or him, to welcome him? I was just a boy, mind you, but I recall that an Imperial envoy was come to the village.
Boy was to come to the village. The bridge was built by the villagers as
But
a
that's
way
a
to
mistake
welcome
saying him.
It was?
Yes. The bridge you see today was built for the envoy's arrival. I remember it vividly. It was a hot summer's day, and the envoy's clothing was quite ostentatious.
What do we think's inside these boxes? We're bringing gifts, were they?
Why did the envoy come to Bailu?
I don't know.
Nothing?
Like I said, I was just a kid.
Not that we can believe much of what this bloke says anyway, right? But
Is there anyone else who might know more about it?
Well, let me think. I'm pretty sure Sun was there.
Where is Sun now?
These days, I hear he hangs around the market.
The market?
Yes, but he's a bit of a drifter.
so
I can't guarantee.
yeah, so 1910 to 1987 is 70. I don't know why I can't do basic maths. 77 years. And if he was a little boy in that cutscene, there was a picture. We'll probably see another picture of him. Is he over 80, this dude? I suppose he must be.
Guarantee you'll
He's got
find him
these
there.
herbal things on his head that's probably making him look young.
Understood. Thank you.
Just chilling in him. Who ye? Was, yeah, so he's not alive. Okay, so he died 1976, that emperor guy. So yeah, so he was only 4 years old when he, and obviously this is fictitious, I don't think he actually asked a village to design 2 mirrors. I think that's obviously in the world of Shenmue. But this guy is the Xuantong Emperor, who was only 4 when was he 6? Sorry, I think he was 6 in 1912 when the dynasty ended during this revolution. Okay, so he was the youngest emperor, was he? Well, perhaps not the youngest, I don't know. But yeah, pretty cool. That's the dude there. So he only lived how long? So he's only 61 years old when he died. And obviously 1967 then is 20 years before the events of Shenmue currently, where we're at. So he's definitely a character to investigate a little bit in the future. So Mr. Su, we just seen this. He tells that the Verdant Bridge was built by the villagers themselves to welcome the Imperial Envoy. He mentions that he was there amongst the crowd of people as a boy along with Sun. Su does not remember much more, however, and so Rio visits Mr. Sun, who he tracks down at the abandoned temple, which we've got here as... Oh, there's a little bit of a Shenhua talk. Let's have a look at that. What was that significance? 331:12. 331:12. It's about here-ish.
Were you able to talk with Feng?
Yeah. I think I need to go to the abandoned temple.
Why? Is there something there?
Someone, actually. Grandmaster Feng says that's where Sun is. He also said Sun has seen the people from the photograph in person.
The people in this photo are Imperial envoys sent from the capital.
Exactly.
The capital?
If we figure out the link between the patterns on the bridge and the patterns on the mirrors, I think it will lead us straight to your father.
I can only hope.
I know. We'll find him, Shenhua.
So I think I left that in because of the word capital there that Shenhua says. Was the capital in this era that Liu Wang? Oh my god, I'm crap at spelling. Liu Wang, capital of China. Let's see. So, is that what it's saying there? Became the capital of the Eastern Zhao dynasty. Eastern Zhao. Chengzhou? Chengzhou, isn't that the... Oh no, Kangzhou is the... Let's have a quick look at that. Because I don't know when... Obviously Beijing is the capital of China, but I feel like I remember hearing someone say that Liuang used to be the capital of China, or used to be the capital. Capital. It's the earliest of 4 great ancient capitals of China. There are traditionally 4 major historical capitals of China referred to as the 4 great ancient capitals of China. Liuang was the capital of various dynasties, including... See, none of them actually are in this era, are they? That we're looking at. Which will be 1910 AD. Let's just have a look at like 19... Beijing. Oh, hang on. Was the capital of various dynasties. So Beijing was the capital in the Qing dynasty. So there you go. So I guess when she says... What did she just say?
Oh.
My memory is shocking.
If we
photo or imperial envoys sent from the capital.
Sent from the capital. So were these sent from Beijing then, do we reckon? Because of what we just found out there. It's really cool looking at the game lore and then comparing it to real life. I would have never known the Emperor was so young in 1910. I didn't, mate, either. I'm the same. I was shocked, actually, when I read Switch's post and he said that he was like 4 years old, because in your head and the way that they're talking, as though he's like a proper Emperor bloke. And I was even thinking that, you know, the cutscene where Shenmue's on the swing and she's there with, I assume, her real parents, right? And they look like they're dressed like you would perhaps think that they're maybe the Emperor and Empress with that big ancient sort of temple behind them. That was what I always thought. I thought they were the Emperor and Empress, but then hearing about this now and the fact that they do allude to like the Shuang Tong and all this sort of stuff in the game, it seems like they are kind of following the real timeline of events. So this dude would be the Emperor, so he would only be 4 years old commissioning the Phoenix and Dragon Mirror. So again, maybe his uncle did this, but it's pretty insane stuff, really. Wasn't Beijing mentioned in the interviews? Yeah, I do believe at some point we do go to Beijing, don't we? Right. I've got one of these. I think it's this one. I think it's Shensun's. Where's the one with the map? Here we go, the world map. So Beijing is here, because that's the Forbidden Temple, the Forbidden City, actually. Which would make sense, actually, when you think about it, because the Forbidden City is where the Emperor lives. I've actually been there in real life, and it's insane, actually. It's massive. It's crazy that it's like this unused city, and it's literally just for tours. But considering that probably was at one point a booming city, with all these people going around and serving the Emperor and all that sort of stuff, it is insane to see. And that staircase, I've actually got a photo of that staircase, me looking down. And it's weird, actually, because you can't actually see it because you're on ground level. I don't know where we went. I think we did climb up to like some higher structure. And when you can actually see above all of the... Let me get that chapter tile. You'll see what I'm talking about a bit better. So there's like all these buildings in the distance, and it's just a huge city. Actually, let's get a picture up of the Forbidden City, because it'll show you what I mean. I'm sure we can get a picture. This sort of stuff. So all these buildings and stuff. So you actually enter here, and you've got this grounds, and I think that ground's there, and then you can't go any further. But beyond where you enter, it's like all this shit here it's like a proper full... It's like it's like a city. Look at that. It's not just a castle. It's like a city within... So basically, anyway, the Emperor would have been sat here on his throne, probably, a little 4-year-old dude. And they sent the envoy from... They couldn't have walked, right? Let's see. How long would it have took them to walk? So you've got Guil in there. This is just some little funny thing I'm just going to see. So let's get directions from... Let me close some of these tabs because we're going a bit slow, I think. Directions. So we're going to choose a starting point of the Forbidden City. I'm assuming that's right, and it's not like a restaurant called Forbidden City. Can we put some... What layers we got on here? We want like the terrain... Not the terrain one, but where's the one that combines them all? Satellite, there we go. Oh my god. Oh, I don't think you can zoom in on the China, can you, for some reason, because of their... Or it could just be because I'm slow streaming. I know you can't actually go Street View anyway in China because of their laws and stuff. So Forbidden City, all the way along here. Why the fuck is it so slow? Apologies, guys. Let's make my PC actually... 13-year-old PC actually... look 13 years for once. So there's no way they could walk that. Look, it would take them 17 days. Is that? I guess that's probably what they used to do back in the day, maybe? Fuck me. Where's this? It's the Lai. Is it the Lai River? Or the Lee River? Oh my god. Let me just close some more stuff. Don't need that up. We don't need that up. I'll keep them up. We need them up. It could probably is because of YouTube. Is this the river? This looks a bit rivery. Oh, is it the Yangshui River? Let me try Guilin. River. My river. Lee River. Lee River's there. Why am I talking about the Lee River? 17 days to walk, I know. I know the old man in Bailu Village says something about people coming from the Lai River. That old dude. But yeah, it looks like they would have had to walk that journey because there's no river that goes... You know, it's not like you could have got a boat. So that's quite a long distance if we are going off this. So they sent them from the capital, and this is 1910. Possibly with cars around in 1910 in China? I don't know. Or, yeah, I was just thinking if they took a boat, but maybe you could take boats some other way. So anyway, they've arrived in Bailu Village. They've crossed the bridge. They're heading to this dude that can make the best mirrors. Basically, they've been sent a fax, I'm sure, that this is the best guy for the job. Got this dude from the Yellow Pages. 3 hours 38. Let's move on. Bit of a sidetrack there. Hopefully that was interesting. Whatever I just discovered, if anything. Right, so this is... He's got to Mr. Sun now. Master Sun. And we can ask him about the Verdant Bridge.
Please, tell me about the completion of the Verdant Bridge.
The Verdant Bridge. I must have been 10 or so. They sent an Imperial envoy here to Bailu.
I don't know if the 4-year-old went with them. I think he probably stayed at
to welcome the Imperial
the Forbidden
envoy.
City. They're definitely on foot here, anyway.
Waiting near the bridge with Ye and Su to catch the envoy's arrival.
Horse and
We had
carriage,
to shove
possibly.
our way to the front, but what I saw was etched into my memory.
Horse and carriage, possibly, but then they probably would have been in this cutscene had they done that. Maybe a steam train, or maybe what they did. Yeah, if it's on like Sheep's saying there, if it's on behalf of like the Emperor and Empress, probably in those days it didn't really matter. Like, oh, you know, go to Bailu Village for us, go get these mirrors made, and then come back. You know, I'll see you in 3 months, kind of a thing. So they probably travelled. They probably did travel on foot, you know, back in those days, and then just stopped off in each village. And I suppose each village welcomed them in because they're part of the Emperor's, minions or part of the family there. So they probably like kept stopping off at all these different villages until they reached Bailu village. So obviously they're going to stop off, have a shower, get some food, and I don't know if they've got somewhere to wash these nice outfits, because obviously after 17 days of walking they probably wouldn't, and that's non-stop walking, so it would have taken probably double
Why was
that.
the envoy sent to Bailu?
That's the question, isn't it? For a phantom river stone mirror.
What does a mirror have to do with this?
That envoy was on a mission to get a mirror made by the greatest stonemason in China. They came by decree of the Emperor.
And who was the stonemason?
His name was Yuan Liushan, and he stood above the rest. He lived in Bailu. He was Yuan's grandfather.
I see. So that's the connection.
So that's a pretty big story beat there, because if you think Ryo's had the mirror since, well, discovering it from his father's basement, and it's quite cool how Shenmue's sort of left these breadcrumbs. Obviously, you've seen Uishi-san who says he read a book about the Emperor asking people to go get this mirror made. Ryo's actually holding the mirror, and he's still holding the mirror at this point. He's in Bailu village. He's actually in the village where the mirror was made, produced, and he's met Shenhua, whose stepfather, so not her real father, but his stepfather, is the grandson of the Yuan bloke who actually made this mirror that Ryo's holding in his hand. It's pretty insane, really, when you think about the journey. And it's been to Japan. It's come back to China, and whatever this mirror actually holds as potential to unlocking treasure or unleashing Chio as a stupid crazy monster thing. It's pretty crazy. So the envoy has heard about the stonemason in Bailu village. He's the best stonemason. He's going to make the best mirror. They want it out of phantom riverstone that's only found in Bailu. They've brought this envoy all the way to Bailu village. They've met with the bloke, I'm assuming. He's drawn out the plans. I don't know how long it takes for him to craft these mirrors, but he's crafted them. And then I'm assuming he's handed them to the envoy. If they're still around, I don't know, would they have walked back and then come back again? Or you'd think maybe, it'll take me a week to make these, I don't know. And then they stayed in Bailu, I don't know, because the way that the events plan out, it's like they've come and it was a big event. So if they did stay for a prolonged period of time, then surely that would have stuck in their minds a bit. So I'm not quite sure I follow from that point onwards. But he's made the mirrors. I assume they've taken them back to Beijing. I don't know how that links to the Cliff Temple and why the treasures of the Qing dynasty are actually there, or whatever's going on there, and why the mirrors themselves are like the keys to unlock whatever's going on the Cliff Temple. And I think it was Shenmue Unofficial that, I don't know if we get to it in this post, but Shenmue Unofficial was talking about the actual place that resembles the Cliff Temple. I forget its name. It might be in this post because I feel like I've read this when I was looking at this the other day. So we'll see if we get to it anyway. But yeah, steam trains possibly. By the way, I did read that. Do you think that Lan Di was going to Bailu to get Yuan to make a new mirror? I am not sure about that. I would assume that Lan Di was just going there because, and I think that was shown in the anime, right, that Yuan Dazu told him to actually go to Bailu. I'm not sure if that's linked, if that's in the original script or something. That it's like Yuan Dazu that says, go to Bailu. I don't know if he's telling him to go to Bailu because, like, to throw him off the scent because he knows Ryo's got the mirror. But I assume that, and in fact, at the start of Shenmue 3, with the thugs coming in, they're trying to find stonemasons, aren't they? They're trying to find the mirror. I think it even says that they were sent to. He does in the anime, yeah. He says go to Bailu village, I can't remember the reason what he says. Does he say because that's where Phantom Riverstone is to Landy? I don't know, something like that. Whether he's throwing him off the scent or whatever. Seems like Landy thought the Phoenix Mirror was in Bailu Village. That's the way it seems like from the game series. Anyway, it's mentioned the thugs were trying to hunt it down. Yeah. But as grounded as the world of Shenmue is to real life, the concept of the Chiyo appearing and devouring the woods seems quite out there. I'm intrigued how they would do it, though. Yeah, same, mate. That's one of the things I want to look into is like the Chiyo monster and just see if it could just be figurative speaking rather than an actual thing that ever existed. It's been to Japan, Hong Kong, then back to China. It's crazy, isn't it? The thugs were working for Niao-sun. Worthy. What, Yanlang and the gang? Is that... I suppose we don't really know, yeah. Like you say, we don't really know. Potentially. But... You know when Chai's knocking about the village as well, and he says, Yanlang's being questioned, isn't it? And I think Rio even says, it's a stupid line of dialogue, he should say, who's Chai, whatever, but he says, like, who's the creepy skinhead guy? He says, that's Chai, he's a madman or whatever. I don't know if they actually say if Chai's with them or he's working on his own, because we know Chai is trying to do stuff because he wants to appease Landy. So whether or not the thugs were actually sent by Landy or not, it's a good point, interesting point. Can't remember if it's made clear the thugs were acting on Landy or Niao-sun's orders. Yeah, I can't remember. And then they hand over to the Red Snakes. The Red Snakes, though, they're nobodies, aren't they, really? Mr. Gay, or Guy, or whatever his name is, I suppose, is he the leader of the Red Snakes? And he's just the big boss guy that's in the way, but whether or not they've got any significance to the plotline of Shenmue, or is that just like another gang that they introduced? Because if you think about it, they're no real... I don't think they know Landy, do they? Did they ever mention that they say? Yeah, I don't think it's nothing more than just being another annoyance. Blue spiders, red snakes. Although, according to Stuart, then yeah, they're under Niao-sun's orders, aren't they? They are actually, because it's her that's in the room with them, right? In that warehouse room where they fight. And she's sitting there at the back of the thing, isn't she? So yeah, and that kind of works with the red, possibly. Not sure about the snakes. Red Phoenix leader, it probably would have been a more suitable thing under that, but yeah, potentially. Yanlang was the blue spiders right at the story DLC revealed he was working with that guy who betrayed Zhu. Yeah. That was the first guy's Zhang, isn't it? But then there's another guy that appears. Is there 3 guys in that story DLC sitting at that table? And one of them is like weird, isn't he? Not working on behalf of any of them. Betrays them, like I say. Cheers, Matt. Catch you later. Yeah. Only got about 25 minutes to go, so we're going to rattle through this in a moment, hopefully. What? Sega buying the Angry Birds company for $1 billion? Is that for real? Is that company even worth that much these days? I don't feel like I hear much about the Angry Birds. Yeah, probably. Niao-sun paid the thugs. The Chiyu men seem to use the service a lot of gangs. Mad Angels, Yellowheads, Blue Spiders, Red Snakes. Yeah. How did Niao-sun know Rio's the mirror? Shenhua, possibly? Did she tell her? Again, Yuan Dezu, possibly. Right, so let's carry on. So that's basically... oh no, we've got the Aldier bit here, actually. I haven't done this. So now that Rio knows that the mirrors were crafted by the grandfather of Yuan, Shenhua's stepfather. Well, the grandfather of him, yeah. So Aldier, although she has been unwilling to speak initially when Rio is alone, eventually talks about the ridge when Rio visits her, together with Shenmue, and passes the Phoenix Mirror to her and confirms that the envoy's mission was to give the plans for the mirrors to the stonemasons. Right, so it's the plans that they give to the stonemasons. So those ancient plans that we saw when I played a little bit of Shenmue 2 a little bit early, those actual plans were what they must have brought with them and gave to Yuan's grandfather. So the envoy, does she say this? Okay, let's watch this cutscene instead. So we've got it here. It's 5 hours, 11 minutes. Um, 15 seconds. Irish. Yeah, true. I suppose if you go off that
Elder,
Chapter
yeah.
5 tile art as well, where she's in the distance,
If it
potentially it
isn't
could just be saying
Shenmue.
she has been following him.
Oh, and the young man from Japan. Come to ask about the Verdant Bridge again?
We have.
And as I've told you, it's ancient history. It has nothing to do with you.
Or does it?
Is she blind? She is blind, isn't she? Yeah, because they have to
Phoenix
describe the
Mirror.
scroll to her.
How did you get this?
My father left it for me.
A little bit of brain
It's
fart
what
there,
brought me
sorry.
to this village.
Tell us about the Verdant Bridge. Please.
Sue and Soon both told us you would know more.
Ah, so you've spoken to them.
Yes.
It was over 70 years ago now. 1910, the second year of the Shren Tong Emperor, and I was but a girl. An imperial...
So, I've just got that line. Maybe you guys got that then. So, the second year of the Xuan Tong Emperor. So, it is based on the real life Emperor dude that's 4 years old, because he would have been in the hot seat basically for 2 years at that point. So 1910, if he was the emperor in 1908, he's been in the hot seat for 2 years. So that adds up. So they are basing this off that real life emperor, Pu Yi.
imperial envoy was sent from the capital to the village. The whole village came together and built a new bridge so as to welcome him.
And that's the Verdant Bridge.
It was a hot summer afternoon. Su Swan and I were trying to get a glimpse of the envoy and his troop. We could hardly contain ourselves as we waited near the bridge. At last, they appeared.
See, I thought this dude was the emperor, but he's not.
They
Man.
were resplendent. I can still picture them clear as day. The envoy came to command the greatest stonemason to make a set of mirrors of phantom river stone.
And who was that?
Well, phantom river stone can only
Come on,
be
Rio, you
found
already know the
here
answer to that,
in
mate.
Bailu. And of the stonemasons here, the Ren name became known to the capital. They were the family that was chosen to make the special mirrors for the Emperor. The envoy gave the design for the mirrors to Yuren's grandfather.
Okay.
That must have been the mirror design we found at the house.
Which matches the pattern in the photo that we found at Mount Yuan Temple.
And the relief we found at the quarry.
What does it all mean, though?
This pattern is everywhere.
Listen carefully. Find the 6 tokens here, then climb the bell tower.
The bell tower?
Thought she was going to give some sort of a big reveal then, and then I remembered that it's just a mini game. Just starts a bit of a hunting tokens mini game that's got nothing to do with anything.
There are 6 tokens that serve as
6
keys.
tokens that I lost around my house. You have to find them.
Where does this key go?
So I will carry on with this actually, because this is pretty cool. And if you notice,
Leo,
this was
take a
something I
look.
thought about. How
There's something on the pillow.
it was like last week we were talking about yin and yang, and I brought up that massive list of like opposites, didn't I? You know, like dragon, phoenix, big, small, possibly with those like night, day, black, white, and that sort of stuff. If you think about it, this is kind of like yin and yang puzzle.
What the
Because
heck
everything
is this?
matches. It's like the
Does this
opposite of what
image
it's
mean
saying. So
something?
it's like hand, palm and fist, sun, moon. So leave this playing while you're. I'll catch up on the chat. So I saw someone actually. I was going to say. So yeah. So they gave Niauson the faint mirror because Rio didn't want to risk. Sorry, they gave Niauson the real mirror because he didn't want to risk giving her the faint mirror, them finding out, and then they had the bloody knife to Shenhua's throat, didn't they? They didn't want to risk, or Rio didn't want to risk harming Shenhua's life, which is what Stuart said. Hey, Shadow of Destiny guy. Shadow Memories. Vivi Gamer, yeah. How you doing, mate? Wishing you well as well. What do you think? The Age the Emperor, Andy? Possibly. And that was him in the flashback. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, so they do this puzzle basically, get to the next floor, and then what do they do? They turn... Oh, bollocks, I pressed 0 by mistake. They turn this carriage thing around, which again has all the opposites on. Wine, buns, sun, moon. It's literally as a yin and yang puzzle. So it's cool. They haven't got rid of that theme, if you know what I mean. They haven't retconned that theme. Snake Tortoise and the... What's that one called? I can't think all of a sudden. Snake Tortoise and... Should be White Tiger, shouldn't it? Actually. It's like a... So this is the scroll. And we're going to look at this in a moment. So they get the scroll from that. Head to Yald Alier's house. Right, let's watch this cutscene because this is a good one as well.
Shenhua, dear, what do you see on this scroll?
Ooh, I like that. Do you reckon she's purposely
Well, there's a
got the house
dragon
next
and
to
a
the bell tower
phoenix.
to
I'm
protect the bell
certain of
tower?
it.
Not great having a blind lady in charge,
There's
though, is it?
also some treasure.
So that alludes there. You got your dragon and phoenix hovering over the treasure,
Dragon is
which
There's a dragon.
on the scroll is literally saying treasure, isn't it? It's got coins, it's got treasure chests. Is that like a sword in the ground, perhaps, or something? Or a relic? You've got pots and jewels and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure what the circle things are supposed to be representing. Whether that's a mirror, potentially. Phoenix and dragon, I don't know if they're attacking each other or in unison.
And a phoenix.
I'm certain of it.
But she's certain of it.
There's also some treasure.
So, if the dragon is the...
Like Japanese books and stuff, how you read from right to left, I'm assuming that's the same situation here. The scroll starts on the right.
And the phoenix the empress. The treasure is the hidden treasure in their palace.
We saw all of these patterns in the quarry.
This pattern here is identical to the Phoenix mirror.
The Chiyo-man is desperate to find this mirror.
How does she know about the Chiyo-man?
For together, the Phoenix and Dragon mirrors are the key to hidden treasure.
This is huge.
Anything else?
The cormorant fissure and the hole in the rock.
Well now, let me...
I don't think this really holds much merit, this particular picture. I think this was just to
The port town of Niaowu along the
give Rio a
Lijiang
destination.
River has a cave rock you can
Lijiang
pass
River,
through.
okay.
Really?
Yes, it's quite large. As for the cormorant fishermen... Yes, that is a picture of Niaowu. I'm almost certain.
The last picture extends out into a mountain cliff.
So, and this is what I was, if anyone's like been in the stream for the whole time, just take a look at this, guys. So that is what would be referred to as the Cliff Temple, right? At the end of the game, even though you can't really see a temple on there. We've got this in Shenhua's house, or in Shenmue 2's version of Shenhua's house. Not even the villagers would go near these mountains, right? And I don't know if it's the same sort of thing here. I just noticed that there's like these big tree branch things, which are like similar to these tree branch things here. Perhaps not identical, actually, because these mountains are a bit more like rigid. Whereas these are like your Guilin sort of circle-topped mountains. But I just thought that was quite interesting. I don't know if this was an image of the Cliff Temple, but I suppose it could be. Those same sort of mountains, and this is the reason villagers don't go there. The mountains from which no one returns, possibly. And yeah, like someone just mentioned there, the chapter tile thing. I did have that up a little bit earlier. It's not 5, is it? It's 7, actually. This one. This is apparently that from the scroll. And the reason is because at the end of Shenmue 3, when Rio's on the boat, that bloke, and it's a translation error, isn't it? That bloke says, or Rio replies, that's where we found the scroll, but he mentions the Cliff Temple, and that's what they saw on the scroll. He's thinking, possibly. And that's those mountains there. You can actually see the Cliff Temple there, which is really cool. This is like, we're potentially looking at Shenmue 4 in art form.
A mountain cliff. It seems that the treasure at the heart of this calamity is hidden in those mountains.
This is a lot to take in.
What could these pictures possibly mean?
My dear, I believe you hold a map to the treasure.
Makes you wonder like how much of this is like translation issues, because map to the treasure, if that's the map to the treasure, what's the point of Yuan Dezu's smoking bollocks? Like those lights and that smoke and that sort of stuff that's supposed to be indicating where the treasure is that void now? Is that like, because we know it's at the Cliff Temple, You know, they've just literally straight out said, oh, it's at the Cliff Temple. You know, you don't have to follow stars or anything these days. I don't know. What was the cool way to start Shenmue 4? Shenmue 4 has to start off on the Cliff Temple and Ryo fighting his way to get the mirror back. Yeah, right at the start, just jumps straight into action. Could work. So we know how and why the mirrors were made, but not why or how they have mystic powers or whatever, yeah. It could have been handy for Ryo to ask, like, he's heard that when this is combined with the other mirror, Chio, you know, is supposed to devour the earth. He could have said there was a bloke that had like a smoking pipe, and maybe we can do it here with the bloody smoking pot you've got over the thing here. Let's see if I can show you the stars or whatever. And he's saying, like, how is this even possible? How is the sword that was floating? How did the mirror glow and shoot a beam of light out that hit like a light thing that set the whole bloody stone pit on fire? He knows they've kind of got these magical properties, but again, like, we don't actually learn anything about that or who put them there. You know, if this Mr. Yuan guy, the grandfather, has actually designed and carved these mirrors, I guess it must be the Emperor that's put the essence of a dragon and phoenix into them. Don't know. He says this is huge, but I feel like most of the stuff we already knew. Yeah, I know what you mean. We did know, obviously, that the mirrors are the key to the treasure, because Yuan Dazu says that, treasure of the King Dynasty. He kind of already knows about the Verdant Bridge and the history of the mirrors because he's got all that information from Sun Tzu. Who was the first guy we got the information of the mirror from? Wasn't Feng, was it? Doesn't particularly matter, but yeah, he kind of knew that stuff going in. Nice spotting, James. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. Could just be. I just noticed that twig thing at the bottom kind of matched up. And yeah, great new track, by the way, Richard, as well. I listened to that earlier. I think you sent me a clip of that the other day, right? Andy, mate, yes, they're on the forum, on the Dojo forums. That's what I was literally on there. I can actually link them. Not very easily, actually, because... Can someone link that? Can you link that forum topic to Andy in the chat there, Terry, if you don't mind? Right, so the scroll, so that's what we just watched. So after Ryo and Shenmue retrieve the scroll from the bell tower at the Bailey village, they take it back to Aldier's house, where she explains the meaning of its drawing. Cheers, sheep. Thank you, buddy. So here we go, we've got some translation notes. So the English, I'm certain of it, is only a partial translation of the Japanese line, which translates more fully as, yes, there's no doubt, this is it. The impression this gives is that Aldier has prior knowledge of the scroll and is now sure in her own mind that this is indeed what Ryo and Shenmue have found. The translation, hidden treasure in their palace, is misleading as it sounds almost as if there is a palace in the mountain location. Possibly. The Japanese phrase is merely describing the nature of the treasure, and so this line would be better translated as the treasures of the imperial household. Okay. So it seems as though she's got prior knowledge of the scroll, and she's aware of what they've found. Okay. And that was a thing, like, did we assume when Shenmue's father wrote that note in the stone pit saying, go with the one that holds the phoenix and find the proof? Was this the proof? This scroll, is this the proof? Potentially. So hidden treasure in the palace, yeah, so it's treasures of the imperial household. So I wonder what kind of treasures they're referring to. I know we see crates and boxes and stuff of treasure. Kind of reminds me of like pirate treasure, that sort of a Uncharted or something on Earth in a chest of goodies. Or is it something completely different than that? It's just how it's depicted on the scroll. It's like physical treasure in it, which is just interesting. The word in Japanese for the treasure may also be translated here as the treasure. based on the flow of this conversation. It's likely that LDR is talking about the treasures of the Imperial household. The line would then become, the Chiyu men is desperate to find this mirror, for together the Phoenix and Dragon mirrors are a key to the treasure. Hidden treasure, the treasure. Cliff, mountain cliff, they actually say. Last picture extends into a mountain cliff. Mountain cliff seems that the treasure is heart of the calamity is hidden in those mountains. So here, LDR explains that the Phoenix and Dragon mirrors are key to the treasure and hence are highly sought after by the Chiyu men, and yet at the same time the scroll also seemingly serves a similar purpose in pointing to the location of the treasure. It's not clear whether the scroll is also an essential item in finding the treasure. Would Ryo have learnt about the Cliff Temple otherwise? I think he would, wouldn't he, because Mr. Yuan on the boat tells him that Landi's heading there as well, to the Cliff Temple. So, do we actually get anything from the scroll, really, in terms of, like... It's not really... I suppose it is a map to the treasure still, but by the time you get to the end of the game, you learn where the treasure is anywhere without the scroll. Ryo just confirms, like, oh yeah, we saw that on the scroll. Do you know what I mean? So it's not a major piece of thingy that Ryo actually needs to find the treasure, I guess. One small point is that the Japanese word map is not actually used with regards to the scroll. From the Japanese wording, this line translates as, it surely describes the location of the treasure. So it's not like this is a map to the treasure, it just describes the location of the treasure, which kind of does, it is more fitting because they are just like illustrations, aren't they? Note that the drawing shows steep mountains and cliffs but no buildings. This leads to a slight inconsistency with the contents of a conversation that is held later on with Shenhua's father, which we will see next. And I realise it's 11, but because we're right at the end of this, we're going to just get through this, even if we go slightly over. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. And then we'll kind of weigh up where we're at the end of this. So 9:51:40. 9:51:40. So this is right at the end of the game when you've defeated, well, not even defeated Landi, have you? You've run away from Landi. And we're on the ship with, we've got Shenhua's father back with us, who I assumed was dead, but obviously he's alive and well.
This is Zhao Sunming.
You know him?
The man next to him is...
My father. My father was killed by Landi.
Landi.
He suddenly appeared in the dojo and stole the dragon mirror. Then he killed my father.
The dragon mirror, stolen by Landi.
It has the same design as a relief I saw in your quarry.
Something so terrible happened because of the mirror my family created.
Please, tell me if you know anything.
The dragon mirror and the phoenix mirror were once locked away in the Cliff Temple. But someone had their eye on them.
They were the Chiyu men.
Zhao Sunming wanted to retrieve the mirrors before they fell into the wrong hands. He's the man standing next to your father. The mirrors were entrusted to him. Several years later, Zhao died under mysterious circumstances.
Do we know how old Iwao and Zhao Sunming are meant to be? So Ryo's father dies, obviously. How old is he when he dies? Is he 47? Something like that? So I think it's like 20 years ago, right? So he's in Bailu village with Zhao Sunming for some reason, training. because Grandmaster Feng remembers WoW, and everyone remembers WoW, and Suming Zhao training in Bailu Village. And then at some point, they must have headed to the Cliff Temple themselves. But the mirrors were locked away in the Cliff Temple. Which is interesting now, because is the treasure at the Cliff Temple or just the mirrors? Why were the mirrors locked away at the Cliff Temple? If the mirrors unlock the treasure, so the Chiyu men. So is this something that's been going on for 20 years? The Chiyu men wanted to get to the treasures of the Qing Dynasty, but the mirrors were locked away there as well. I'm surprised it wasn't patched either. Such a shame. No worries, Terry. Cheers for coming, buddy. Going to go slightly over just because I want to get this finished. Yeah. I wish this one mistake could have been patched though, because it's like quite a big, left a lot of people confused. Well, I was 46 when he died. We know that he went to Kowloon about 20 years before. It does seem like Ryo's following in his father's footsteps, which is an interesting point in itself, that like Ryo's travelled to all the places his father kind of went as well. Because it sounds like WoW didn't have the mirrors, or something didn't have the mirrors until he went to the Cliff Temple and retrieved them, because obviously the bad guys were going to get there and do bad with them. Which you can kind of see the situation playing out, maybe at the Cliff Temple. The Chiyu men, possibly, or if Zhao had the mirrors, they were. Didn't it say somewhere at some point they were entrusted to Zhao Suming, right? And then he died under mysterious circumstances, and WoW ends up with the mirrors. Takes them back to Japan, I guess, for safekeeping. Hides them both so no one can get their hands on them. Landy gets the Dragon Mirror, Ryo's got the Phoenix Mirror. Landy wants the Phoenix Mirror, and then he's going to take them to the Cliff Temple to unlock the treasure for some reason, even though it was only about revenge, but that's still his motive for some reason. I suppose that's just the motive of the Chiyu men. But yeah, Zhao was guarding them. So Zhao must have retrieved them from the Cliff Temple. I'm not sure if anyone asked him to. They just knew they were in tough. Something was going on.
His only son, Long Sun, was raised by the Chiyo men.
Long Sun?
Zhao Long Sun, also known as Lan Di.
I reckon someone killed Zhao Suming, and it wasn't a WoW. I reckon a WoW probably just had him in his arms, like, because he's his good friend. And then Landy, as like a kid, walks in, sees a WoW holding his dead father. A WoW maybe like looks at Landy and he's like, oh shit, kind of thing, runs off, and it kind of, like you might do if you're in panic, your best friend, and then his son walks in, you don't know what to do, so you run off. And then Landy's had that image of this bloke holding his dead father, running away, and he's just assumed that it must have been a WoW that killed him.
The Cliff Temple that Zhao visited.
That's where we found the scroll.
I heard the Chiyo men have taken it over.
So, Landy is there.
So the Chiyo men have taken it
Most
over.
likely.
But they've only got one mirror. So they're just hanging around with one mirror, waiting until the second one arrives. I think that's it, guys, right? So that's when it leads to this leads to the Great Wall, doesn't it? Which is where we're kind of at in the story. Seemingly, on the way to the Cliff Temple. I don't think it shows the Cliff Temple at the end, does it? I think that's just... What is it? Pause. Are those the mountains? Is that the Cliff Temple there? That building? I mean, it doesn't look like the one that's on that Chapter 7 tile, but I guess it could be. They're following like a path that goes up here, or is this just another tower, another Great Wall Tower, and then it's, it's could be those mountains even. It's like a big long journey. I hope we get to walk this. I want like an end of Shenmue 2 situation where they're just walking and talking, but it's like instead of just Ryo and Shen 4, it's now with Ren. I think that would just be sick. Like Ren's quips and just talking. Maybe they can discuss what's going on with the mirrors and all that sort of stuff. Let's close that now. So, don't think we've got much more of this to go. Yes, cool. Okay, we're reaching there, guys. We're going to do this. Let me just read this chat here. So, I don't think Wow killed Andy. I don't think he killed him. No, I'm on that sort of side, and I don't think Wow was the type. And especially everyone says Wow wouldn't do that. They were good friends. The scene laughing in that photo. I reckon it could be something like I mentioned where he's just holding him and Landy just walks in and sees him and he's a child, so he just assumes Wow had done it, or maybe Niao-sun's told him that. If Wow did kill Zhao, it was probably in self-defense, or Zhao was possibly or possessed by Chiyo, something like that, yeah? Maybe the mirrors possessed him. It was either that or his death was an accident and Wow was involved, possibly. So it could be. So do you think Niao-sun and Landy are both heading to the Cliff Temple without realising the other was headed there? Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I would assume that Niao-sun knows that Landy is intending to go there as well. You'd think they'd like in conversation prior to her deceiving him. It seemed like she was working with Landy up until that point. Could that be Baisha in the distance? I'm not sure. I think Baisha. I don't think that would be Baisha, actually. I think that's more likely to be the Cliff Temple that they're heading to. Maybe they had to fight each other to the death in that arena that's on one of the chapter tiles. This big ring with the crown, the yin and yang thing, like this. This one, right? If I can click it. That thing. I mean, Yuanda Zhu is like really ominous. I've always thought that maybe bloody Yuanda Zhu killed Zhao Sunming, because he did say he was my best friend when he was telling Ryo, and if he's he could be a bit of a liar, compulsive liar, sending Ryo off to try and get the other mirror for him. Does look very sinister, doesn't he? So Yuan goes on to talk about... Did we get to this bit? I think we did, didn't we? He reveals that the two mirrors were at one time kept in the Cliff Temple but were put into the care of Zhao Sunming, Landy's father, at his request, to keep them falling into the hands of the Chiyo men. Who put them into his hands, I wonder? Who entrusted them to him? So the Dragon and Phoenix mirror once locked away in the Cliff Temple, but someone had their eye on them, the Chiyo men. Zhao Sunming wanted to retrieve the mirrors before they fell into the wrong hands. The mirrors were entrusted to him. It's that phrasing that's like, who gave him the say on who has the mirrors. Several years later, he died under mysterious circumstances, and his only son, Long-sun, was raised by the Chiyo men. Yuan goes on to talk about the Cliff Temple that Zhao visited, and note that the part of the English translation is inaccurate. So the Cliff Temple that Zhao visited, that's where we found the scroll. First line has the sense of about the Cliff Temple that Zhao visited, and it's been noted within the Shenmue fan community. The second line here is unfortunately an incorrect English translation. The Japanese has, which means the temple that was on the scroll. Question mark, actually. Referring to the scroll that they found in the bell tower. So a corrected version would be about the cliff temple that's now visited. What, the temple that's on the scroll? I hear the Chia men are taking it over, so Landy is there, most likely with the mirror. Furthermore, although Rio is quick to associate the cliff temple with the picture on the scroll, I wasn't able to see a temple in the picture. We just had a look at that, didn't we? As shown during the game, and LDR does not mention one being present. So, could be inconsistency, I'm not sure. With the introduction of the Bow Tower scroll to the story, we now have two items that are both said to indicate the location of the treasure, the mirrors themselves and their light pattern, and the scroll showing steep mountains where there is said to be a cliff temple. And Shenmue yelling at the sky in sadness or something, perhaps. Really cool, actually, this one. Zimming, potentially. Chiyu men, or just monks, not sure. And I don't know if that dude's that Tentai guy that we mentioned, I don't know. So the 7th chapter tile reviewed by Yu Suzuki at the GDC 2014 event shows a temple built into a cliff which appears to be based on the Heng Shan Hanging Temple. Let's have a look at that, actually. That was the temple I was trying to refer to. Yes, here we go. What do you make of that then, guys? So that, very much looking like that, isn't it? Even like, I suppose that is like how roofs are in Chinese sort of ornate, twirly stuff on the, you know, really nice sort of ornate architecture. But pretty much a spitting match there, isn't there? Because you've even got that little mini staircase here. And I think Yu Suzuki went here on his research thing, so all adds up, doesn't it? A temple that's on the side of a mountain. Is Shenmue Unofficial still in? Is that bloody Lord of the Sky guy that we saw at the start of the thing? Or was that just a Buddha? Just something about that particular one there, which I can't actually see in these photos. Remember the Lord of the Sky thing on that? All the way back up here. Oops. This dude here. I don't know. That looks like that thing to me. Potentially. Aren't some of these things dead creepy? Is that a... That's not a real person, is it? That's like stuff of nightmares, isn't it? It's like hard... It looks human almost. And this face here. Looks like something from bloody Dark Crystal. Very interesting, that, you know. That just looks like that to me. Shape, how it's like a almost seating aspect. Could be onto something there, guys. I don't know. 150, I think it was that. So let's finish this particular episode off with the summary we've got at the bottom here. So, final comments from Switch. There is the possibility that certain story elements may have been adjusted or changed by Yu Suzuki and his team for the third game, but even so, I was surprised at the level of consistency of the clues and underlying background across the games given the intricacy of the interconnecting elements. There were one or two contradictory elements, such as the nature of the treasure, with Master Chen, Zhuandao, and Aldier all having different descriptions of what the treasure actually consists of. I believe this may be deliberate, and that one of these participants is slanting the truth for their own purpose. Again, possibly Yuan Zhu. Looks like Chai. Aldier's comment that the scroll's picture describes the location of the treasure also gives pause, given that the pair of mirrors is also considered to be a key to finding it. Perhaps the scroll is a general clue to moving on towards the goal. Potentially that's why Niawu was probably on that scroll. And the mirrors in the end are what will be required. When playing the first two games, I had assumed that the mirrors were truly ancient and had been carved many hundreds of years ago. However, with the extra information learned in Shenmue 3 and a review of the English translations, I believe these were always meant to have been created in the early 1900s, like that 1910 that we've looked at quite a lot, during the reign of China's very last emperor, Pu Yi. That's a dude I really want to investigate if he's got any real-life significance. It is intriguing to consider that the emperor at this time was merely a child, 4-year-old, which is nuts. In fact, there is an anecdote linking Yu Suzuki and the 1987 movie The Last Empire. Star Wars. I don't know if we get away with it, but I wouldn't mind watching this film on stream, or at least the start of it. Maybe I don't know if it's like anything that's. Has anyone seen this film? Is it worth checking out? Does it relate to anything? So The Last Emperor, which was about the life of this very same child emperor who ruled at the end of the Qing dynasty. This is an extract taken from our translation of the report on Suzuki's 1994 China research trip that provided rich material for the story of Shenmue when a guide is showing him around Beijing. Look, Yu-san, this is the Hall of the Supreme Harmony, where the emperors of the Qing dynasty ascended to the throne. It was also the main filming location for the movie The Last Emperor. Isn't it impressive? Such a grand scale. Oh, Yu-san. Even though our guide, Mr. Zhang, that's funny as well, his guide was Zhang, maintained a professional approach by giving thorough explanations, the object of his guidance was to be found in the shade of a building with no one around, engrossed in taking photos of the walls. This may well have marked the moment of inspiration for the Emperor's inclusion in Shenmue, to be developed further in the remaining games. But please feel free to leave your own opinions and theories, and you can do so in the chat of this episode as well, guys, if you want. I think we've covered some interesting topics from Switch's blog post here, which again should be going live in a couple of days, I imagine. Really, really amazing blog post. Probably one of my favourites he's done, actually, because it basically started this series. Just gave us a little bit of guidance to start with. I know we have had a few other pieces of interesting information from. I think Joe said something last week about something to look into. Joe Kitchen, he said Li Shimin, so it's something I want to look at, whatever that is. Potentially the Tang Dynasty. Potentially something to do with the Cliff Temple or the mountains. We could maybe investigate some of that stuff, yin and yang a little bit more. And the Qing Dynasty revival especially is something that I do want to look into with you guys, and we can maybe investigate this Pu Yi guy as well. I have got a book which is part of it's because I'm with the Open University at least for a couple more months. If it loads. And then this is another thing that I want to go into. This is the Handbook of Chinese Mythology. As you can see, there's loads of stuff we can delve into here. The Han Dynasty I want to look at a little bit. This Qing Dynasty, which goes up to that date, so there's got to be something pretty cool in there. And then there's some stuff about gods. I think there is something about Chiyo there, page 92. So this is going to be pretty cool to actually investigate some of these things that we just learnt about within this book. So that's something we can do in the future. But that kind of leads us to the end of today's episode, guys. I'm going to leave it up with the big mind map that Switch made, which I'm going to put on screen. I'll maximize it. So this is literally every topic that we've just covered in today's, the first episode and the second episode. And this mind map, I mean, you can have a look at this yourselves in more detail when Switch actually releases this. There's a part 1 that you can release. He's like blurred out a lot of this stuff. But I don't even know where you'd start with this. So let's see. So you've got the North Star, which is worshipped as the Lord of the Sky, believed to be the god dealing with death. Obviously, the Phoenix and Dragon are the guardians of the North Star. The Phoenix itself is considered to be the legendary bird of fortune and represents the Empress, and its celestial association with I think he's got these the wrong way around, actually. I think it's Cassiopeia is the phoenix and the Big Dipper is the dragon, but I'm sure he'll correct that. And the Big Dipper is one of the Swing Shui. Dragon represents the Emperor. Cassiopeia is made up of 5 stars, potentially thingy. That was a thing. I think because he made a slight error on that bit we talked about with Yuan Zhu last week, having the 5 stars corpse, and that being like dragon, basically saying Dragon Corporation. Maybe not anymore. Maybe it's Cassiopeia's Phoenix. Maybe it's Phoenix Corporation. So Switch might update that by the time that you see this post. That's an interesting point. I thought I'd let you guys know that. What's this? Through prayer is said to grant wishes. I think Shenmue says that, doesn't she? And the Big Dipper is illustrated on the stone map at Russia, dates back to the Han Dynasty. The Phoenix is depicted on a scroll, and so is the dragon. That's that Shenmue 3 scroll. This is insane, isn't it? Incorporated into the hilt of the Sword of the 7 Stars, which it is. And that's an interesting thing. So the 7 stars are the Big Dipper. Where are we at here? So these at the bottom of the actual handle, these 7 stars, is obviously the... Let me go a little bit higher. The outline of the Big Dipper, but the Big Dipper is the dragon, and yet the actual hilt is the phoenix. So there again, it's the phoenix and dragon. Is something I never actually thought about. You've got both the phoenix and the dragon sort of depicted on that. So the sword was found in the stone pit. That's the grandfather guy in it, this guy. So stepfather, father. So the mirror. Oh, this is insane. I'd love stuff like this. I don't know how Switch has sat down and made it look so good as well. That's the thing. Like, I feel like I would have been looping all these lines everywhere. But it works amazing, doesn't it? So the stone pit located near Bailey Village. The WoW trained with Zhao and Ming. Verdant Bridge completed was in... It was... the completion of the Verdant Bridge was the 2nd year of Xuantong, depicting the Envoy, King Dynasty. All Shenmue 3 did was like give us more questions. It didn't really answer too much. It just left the mystery going, which is great, I suppose, because hopefully at some point we are going to learn what the meaning of all this actually alludes to in the grand scheme of things. But that is another conversation for another day, guys. So I'm just going to catch up on the chat, and then we're going to end at past. So if anyone wants to leave now, thank you for coming, guys. I've enjoyed that one, actually. I'm glad we got to the end of the post. I want to catch up on the chat, though. No one's interested. So, Sheep, I bet well if the Cliff Temple, Rio and Landy come across the actual reason of Sun Ming Zhao's death and Landy realises it wasn't a wow, that'd be a cool twist, wouldn't it? Would that make Landy turn to the good side, do you think, or not? If a WoW did kill Zhao, it was probably in self-defense, or Zhao was possessed. Oh, I did read that, actually. Sorry. Banter, yes, that would be amazing. Hopefully they do that. I'm looking forward to the Rio Ren Shenmue dynamic. Disappointed that we didn't get much of that. Well, she bloody messed with Ren's mind, didn't she, when she met him first? Hopefully she warms to him. I think those are just Buddhist statues. Okay. Would be nice to get some better detailed imagery of that. Might be something I can look at in between episodes. Have you seen any sailors? Thanks for joining us. Switch's poster and saying, yeah. Deep lore, no problem, Andy. Thanks for coming, buddy. Hey, Paket Neo, welcome. That film is a classic, Morris says. Worth a watch. I don't know if we could watch it on stream, could we? Would we be able to get away with that or not? Kickstarter for Shenmue Encyclopedia. I think he'd need tomes of it now, wouldn't he? He's done that much. I think you'd fit it all in. Discord stream. Yeah, I'm sure we could figure something out. It's something I would like to watch. Shoot thinks Landy's going to end up turning to the good side. Landy in a final act sacrifices to help Rio. Would he go that far, do you think? Would he actually help Rio? That's crazy. At the moment, you can't see that happening, can you? But yeah. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, everyone in the chat there, for your input and for joining the stream today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. I'm going to tidy it up a little bit, start and end there, and release it as a bit of a VOD for anyone watching this in the future. So, yeah, awesome stuff, guys. Hopefully we've learned a few things there, or at least sort of laid it out a little bit better in our heads, because that Verdant Bridge stuff, it seems like you're understanding it at the time, but with the extra bit of lore and stuff, it kind of adds a little bit to that when you're thinking about the Emperor only being 4 and that sort of stuff. So hopefully we've got a bit of a better sort of a mindset going in the future of the series, potentially. But yeah, brilliant. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you, as always, with Wish. It was the abridged version last time, but I've got the full version now. So enjoy, guys, and I'll see you potentially in a couple of weeks' time. Probably try and make this a fortnightly jobby. So take care, and yeah, see you soon.